They took my father's house. While his body was still warm in the grave, they packed my clothes into black trash bags and had the sheriff drag me out like a criminal. They told me, "You own nothing now. You are nothing now." I believed them for exactly 6 months. Then one morning, I returned, not as a son, not as family, but as the legal owner of everything they stole, and the looks on their faces were worth every cold night they forced me to sleep in my car. My name is Ethan Carter. Before betrayal destroyed my life, I lived a simple, honest one. My father, Robert Carter, built his business from nothing. A small logistics warehouse on the edge of town. 1 truck at first, then 3, then 15. He used to tell me, "Son, empires don't grow fast. They grow honest." We weren't rich, but we were respected. And in our world, respect fed better than money. My mother died when I was 11. 2 years later, my father remarried. Her name was Diane. Beautiful smile, soft voice, cold eyes that never fully smiled. She had 1 son from a previous relationship, Caleb, my stepbrother. From the first day, I felt it. Not hatred, competition. Because Caleb didn't just enter our home. He entered my future. On the surface, we were a normal family. Dinner at the same table, holiday photos, birthday cakes. Underneath, it was a silent battlefield. My father trained me in business from age 16, invoices, routes, payroll, contracts. Caleb watched from the background, never asked to learn, but always listened. Diane praised him loudly, praised me quietly. That difference matters. When my father praised me, it was about work. When she praised her son, it was about worth. And slowly, piece by piece, she started rewriting the story of who deserved what my father's heart attack came without warning. One night we were arguing about fuel prices. The next morning, he was cold. The house felt wrong immediately, too quiet, too clean, too prepared. At the funeral, Diane leaned on my arm for support, but her grip wasn't weak. It was tight, possessive, like she was already holding on to something that didn't belong to her. 3 days later, the will was read. The lawyer cleared his throat. Cold office, warm lies. According to the final will of Robert Carter, my heart was calm. My father and I had discussed everything. The house, the business, the equipment, the future. All assets and properties are transferred to Diane Carter. My brain froze. Then came the final blow. Ethan Carter will receive a one-time payment of $10,000 as final settlement. 10,000. The warehouse alone was worth over $3 million. Diane didn't look shocked. She looked relieved. Caleb didn't look surprised. He smiled. That's when I understood. This wasn't a decision. It was a plan. They didn't even wait a week. 7 days after my father's burial, there was a knock on my bedroom door. Not a soft knock. Authority. When I opened it, a sheriff stood there. Beside him, Diane and Caleb. The sheriff said calmly, "Mr. Carter, you have 30 minutes to collect your personal belongings." I laughed in confusion. "This is my house." Diane spoke softly. "Not anymore." She handed the sheriff the papers. Eviction order. Legal. Stamped. Cold. My knees went weak. Caleb walked past me into my room and started pulling my clothes from the closet, throwing them into black trash bags, not folding, not packing, dumping, like garbage. I looked at Diane. "You planned this?" She whispered back. "You were never supposed to stay." That sentence did something permanent to me. 30 minutes feels long, until it's your entire life being erased. My father's old jackets, my school trophies, family albums, tools I used with him in the garage. Everything went into bags, except the house, except the business, except my name. When I stepped outside, with 2 trash bags in my hands, the front door locked behind me, click, final. Caleb didn't even look at me. Diane stood in the doorway and said, "You should be grateful we gave you time." That night, I slept in my car, in the driveway of the house I grew up in. The lights inside were on. My enemies were eating dinner where my father once sat, and I was outside, watching through glass. The first week nearly broke me. Cold leather seats, gas station dinners, public bathrooms. I showered at truck stops, charged my phone at cafes, slept with one eye open. Every night, I parked somewhere different. Not because I was scared, but because I refused to feel comfortable being homeless. Comfort kills urgency, and urgency is fuel. On the 9th night, I stopped crying. Silence replaced the pain, and in that silence, my brain woke up. Diane thought I was just my father's emotional son. She never asked what I studied, what I specialized in, who trained me. Before working in the warehouse, I worked in corporate compliance auditing. My job was simple. Find lies inside legal paper. Track money that didn't want to be found. Break fraud that looked clean. I had taken down fake inheritance claims, insider trading rings, shell company laundering, contractor embezzlement, and now, the same kind of paperwork had stolen my life. That wasn't a tragedy. That was an invitation. You don't plan revenge in anger. Anger makes noise. Noise makes mistakes. I waited 2 full weeks, just watching. I watched Diane's routines, Caleb's movements, the warehouse activity, the trucks, the payroll cycles from a distance, like a ghost studying the house that buried him. And slowly, the truth became visible. The company was still running, but it was running wrong. Suppliers unpaid, routes delayed, fuel cards misused, invoices altered. Diane wasn't a builder. She was a stripper. Not of clothes, of value. So I built my blueprint in 3 steps. 1, find the hidden money. 2, lock the legal escape routes. 3, take the company without touching it. No violence, no threats, no drama, only documents. Because documents don't argue, they execute. I used the last of my savings to rent a small room above a closed grocery store. 1 chair, 1 desk, 1 laptop, 1 mission. I started with vendor accounts, companies that supplied fuel, tires, parts. Within hours, I saw it. Invoices paid twice. Some never paid, some rerouted. Then I traced the payments. 3 shell companies, all registered within 90 days of my father's death, all connected to the same offshore intermediary. And behind that intermediary, one name kept appearing in different spellings. Caleb. Not legally, but digitally. He wasn't stealing millions, he was bleeding the company slowly, and Diane was either blind or complicit. The real discovery happened on a Tuesday night at 2:17 a.m. I cross-referenced a payroll delay with a supplier freeze. That's when I saw a transfer that didn't belong. $340,000, moved out of the company reserve account, split into 2 crypto wallets. 1 Cayman holding account. 1 temporary consultant payment. There is no such thing as temporary money, only temporary visibility. And this wasn't business, this was extraction. My father built that reserve with 20 years of sweat. They were emptying it in months. That's when I understood their mistake. They didn't just steal my inheritance. They touched federal lines. And federal lines don't forgive. Most people think investigations begin with sirens. They don't. They begin with paperwork. I prepared 1 anonymous report. 6 pages long, no emotion, no drama, only time-stamped transfers, forged vendor accounts, shell company IDs, crypto routing paths, payroll manipulation, false tax declarations I sent it to, Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, State Revenue Authority, 2 federal compliance divisions. Then I waited, because once you throw a stone into deep water, you don't hear the splash immediately. You feel the current change. The first sign wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It was quiet. Too quiet. A fuel supplier that had worked with my father for 12 years suddenly cut deliveries. No warning, no argument. Just one email. Account temporarily suspended pending compliance review. The next day, 2 more vendors pulled out. By sunset, 3 trucks sat idle in the yard, drivers pacing, dispatch calling nonstop. Diane stood in the warehouse office staring at the monitors like they had betrayed her. Caleb slammed a door. For the first time since the funeral, they felt uncertainty, not defeat, just unfamiliar ground beneath their feet. Banks don't accuse first, they restrict. Diane learned that on a Friday afternoon. Her corporate card declined at a hotel, then her personal one, then the backup. She called the bank herself. I later heard the recording. The agent's voice was calm. "Mrs. Carter, your accounts are under temporary compliance review." Temporary. That word terrifies people who live on leverage. She drove straight to the warehouse, demanded instant liquid access. The financial manager, one of my father's old hires, shook his head. The system locked itself. I don't even see the override tab anymore. That's when Diane understood. Something had entered her world. That didn't ask permission. Caleb doesn't break quietly. He breaks loudly, angrily, stupidly. Instead of slowing down, he tried to pull out more money. Another $90,000 attempt. Same paths, same wallets. But this time, the transfer bounced, flagged, logged, mirrored. And that's when the deeper systems woke up. Not banks, not vendors. Something colder. Something patient. That night, I watched federal monitoring pings light up my encrypted dashboard. They had taken the bait. She waited 3 more days, pretending everything was under control. Then my phone rang. Unknown number, 2:39 a.m. I didn't answer. She called again, and again. On the 4th ring, I picked up. Her voice came through thin, careful, almost polite. "Ethan, there's been some confusion with the accounts." I stayed silent. She continued. "Did you speak to anyone?" I smiled in the dark. "No." And that was still the truth. A long pause. Then, "We might need to talk." I replied, "We already did." And I hung up. That night, for the first time, Diane didn't sleep in my father's bed. Fear doesn't like familiar rooms. 6:11 a.m. The warehouse gates were still half asleep. Fog in the air, engines cold, workers just arriving. Then the black vehicles came. No sirens, no warnings, just doors opening in slow sync, federal jackets, badges catching the morning light. Diane stepped out of the office, with her coffee still in her hand. One agent spoke calmly. "Diane Carter, you are under investigation for wire fraud, elder exploitation, and money laundering." The cup slipped from her fingers. Coffee shattered on concrete. That sound. That was the sound of her empire cracking open. Caleb didn't wait. He bolted through the back exit. Wrong move. Agents already there. He slipped on wet oil near the loading dock. Hit the ground. Hard. Knees on his back. Cuffs on his wrists. No more shouting. No more threats. Meanwhile, Diane stood perfectly still, like a statue that had finally realized it wasn't stone anymore. Hard drives, ledgers, crypto wallets, false contracts, witness intimidation recordings, hospital sedation records, every digital footprint they thought was erased, was projected on federal screens in cold blue light. One agent looked at Diane and said, "You didn't just steal an inheritance. You rewrote a dying man's will while his son was still standing in the room." That's when Diane finally cried. Not for my father, not for me. For herself. The trial took 4 months. No chaos, no shouting, just professionals dismantling lies line by line, every forged signature matched, every hidden account exposed, every manipulated witness reversed. The judge said, "You didn't inherit power. You stole it from the dead." Sentence: 8 years, state prison, Diane. 11 years federal, Caleb. All assets seized, all properties frozen, all companies placed under government receivership. The gavel fell, and with it, their last illusion. 6 weeks later, public auction, their cars, their houses, their watches, their artwork, and finally, my father's company. The same building they once threw me out of. The crowd was loud, investors hungry, predators everywhere. I sat at the back, quiet, still, waiting. The price climbed high, then stalled, then dropped. Silence spread. I raised my number once, just once. The auctioneer looked at me. Sold. The room didn't notice, but history did. Monday morning, same gate, different name on the deed. The employees didn't know what to expect. I walked in alone, no entourage, no speeches, just one line. "This place belongs to Truth again." No one clapped. They exhaled. I didn't owe her a visit, but I gave it. Glass between us. Gray walls. No makeup. No power. She said, "You destroyed my life." I said, "No. You built it wrong from the first brick." She looked at me for a long time, then whispered, "Your father always chose you." I replied, "That was never the problem." Caleb tried to flip, tried to bargain, tried to sell names. But when you betray everyone, no one protects you. He serves his time in silence now. The loudest men always fall the quietest. I went alone. No cameras, no victory speech, just dirt, stone, and memory. I placed the original company's seal beside his grave and said, "They tried to erase you through me. They failed." The wind moved the grass. That was enough answer. Ownership isn't property. It's not money. It's not even control. Ownership is standing where you were once dragged away from, without hatred in your hands, without fear in your eyes, just balance. They took my inheritance. They threw me out with trash bags and lies. They locked the doors while my father's grave was still fresh. 6 months later, I didn't return as a victim. I didn't return as a ghost. I returned as their owner, not by force, not by violence, but by letting the truth hunt them quietly, until it had nowhere left to hide. Because in the real world, power doesn't roar, it signs. Lies run fast, truth outlives them, and the most dangerous revenge of all is the one that never breaks the law.